Hey, I'm back. Okay, I'm just going to dive in and then I think I'm going to edit the videos and smush them together for you all. Um, okay, so where was I? I was talking about this emotional piece. Um, your brain when it takes emotion from this part of the brain and moves it into this part of the brain. In this part of the brain are all your thoughts, your morals, your values, like very much your authentic self, right? So when it takes emotion and it gets it over there, then this part of the brain starts translating the emotion. Well, actually, probably the process from moving here to here is probably what translates it. And so what happens is when it gets there, it's mixing like your power, your emotion, which is energy and motion, right? When you mix that together with thoughts, the energy empowers your morals, your values, your problem solving, your everything. And so you're taking just like you would take and you would make decisions based on what you saw, right? Like my here we go, my the art behind me, right? If you're at the store and you're looking at that and you're making decisions on what you see because your eyes are translating stuff. Do I like that? Do I not like that? Should I put it here? Should I put it there? Right? Your eyes are doing that. Emotions do the same thing. They are part of your sensory system, your senses. And so when your brain, just like your brain converts that stuff into something that is for you, right? It does the same thing for your emotions. But let me tell you what, if your stuff is stuck over here, it's just emotion and it just moves around just as wildly over here or goes just as flat over here and puts it in a box and you put it in a box and it causes all kinds of dysfunction because it never stops moving because it's in motion, and that's why we're having the same thoughts over and over again. That's why we're having circular thinking and racing thoughts and panic attacks over the same things, phobias. That's not a natural state. That's a result of big emotion not getting through the healing pathways. Because i, I once helped somebody resolve a worm phobia in 10 minutes. 10 minutes, no more. 10 years later, still don't have a worm phobia. Okay. Another phobia, vomiting phobia, gone. That one took a little longer because we were bouncing around. But like over and over again, phobia is gone because it's like once your brain can get that through the healing pathways, it's done with it. And not only is it done with it, but it's like, oh, I can take in all that new sensory information, learn so much about myself, which this happens behind the scenes and it's not something you have to control. Your brain just does this for you. And it will like, oh, this is what we could do next. This is what we'll do next. Okay, this is what we'll do. And then it informs your survival center. And then the next thing you know, you see the same thing like a spider. You see the spider and your emotions tell you something different about it now. And your survival system reacts differently now. Same spider, different reaction. Miletta says 10 minutes, that's the speed of the human. Tell me more. Um, but so but that's really what we're dealing with, a really powerful system. And so many people tell me, they come to me and they say, I hate that I'm so emotional. I hate emotions. And I get it. I'm not mad at you. I have no stones to throw, right? But let me tell you what you're saying. You are saying literally, I hate my power. I hate all this power that's flowing through me. I hate, you know, if you wouldn't really say that if you really wanted to say that, because you need power to get things done. Motivation, you need power for motivation. Decision making, action taking, problem solving, you need power for that. Otherwise, thoughts are just thoughts, and we have tons of thousands of thoughts every single day, no big deal. It's when the thought and the emotion come together that they're making something magically, incredibly potent and powerful. And this is one of the genesis of the human creation process. It's like fusion or something, right? I mean, it's like when these two things come together, this is where it happens. And it happens right here. But if you don't take your emotion through there, it doesn't happen. And so you find yourself without motivation. You find yourself stuck in fear. You find yourself stuck in confusion, stuck in doubt, self-doubt. Oh my gosh, limiting yourself, holding yourself back, terrified, self-sabotaging. All of this is a product of this one thing not happening. And if you've got a whole disorder, it's because round and round and round they go. And the emotions are trying to get through. And your inner healer is trying to get them because it knows it needs that stuff. Let me tell you something. You're not going to get what you want until your brain gets what it wants. Okay. And that's a truth. So a lot of us are like, forget that. I'm going to go do this. And let me tell you, you are up against the fight of your life and you are dragging like elephants behind you to try to get one outcome. And if you are incredibly determined, you can pull those elephants quite a while. But let me tell you, it's exhausting. And you're going against the most powerful system in the world. And it is not on your team because it doesn't care what you want if it doesn't get what it wants. But the thing of the matter is, it has its own wisdom. It knows that what it wants is for your highest good. Why won't you work with it? Why won't you give it a little bit of time to resolve what it needs? Why won't you figure out how to help it get this emotion over here? Because this is what it's looking for. Terror, it wants to find terror, it wants to touch it, right? Why won't you help it with that? Okay, because terror is a big emotion, but there's ways to do it that make it less painful. But let me tell you what, you need that stuff over there. You need that to come through. And your inner healer knows it. And guess what? They will never give up. They will never stop until they get it. And that is why people have anxiety, depression, trauma disorders for their entire lifetime. It's because they are working against this part of the brain. They don't know how to work with that part of the brain. And they're trying to live life when this part of the brain's like, I don't want to talk about that right now. I want this. I want to talk about this right here. And we're like, no, 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 I have to do this. I have to do this baby stuff. I have to do this job thing. I have to be this. I have to be that. I have to please everybody around me. I have to do this. No. And we try to go. And it doesn't work like that. Let me tell you, the fastest way to break through this stuff and step into your full potential is to give your brain what it wants. And like I'm gonna say it again. What it wants, it has its own wisdom. And what it wants, it is for your highest good. So it is actually on your team. It feels like it's your biggest enemy. People say to me all the time, my brain is my worst enemy. My this whole thing, this is my brain is just it's I don't know what they say, but they say something about it's my worst enemy, or it's working against me, or it's got me stuck and trapped and it's got me in this prison, right? Yes, but it's not trying to do that. I mean, let me speak on behalf of your brain. It's not trying to do that. It's just this is what brains do, right? It's not nothing personal to you. It's not that your brain just hates you. People say that my brain hates me. No, it doesn't. It feels like it does because you guys aren't working well together and you don't know how to work with your brain. And so but your brain is, you cognitively, you have some flexibility. Your brain does not. This part of the brain does what it does, period. It is not flexible. It's great at what it does. It's phenomenal, best in the world. This emotional center is not flexible. It does what it does. It's not a reasoning center. It's not a logical center. It is not going to budge. And that's what most of the problem is with anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, is that you're like up here, you're like, that's not even dangerous. And over here, it's like, whatever, dudes, we're in danger mode. Panic. Go. Press all the panic buttons. Press all the depression. Faint. Press all the faint buttons. Now you're lightheaded and you're dizzy and you're going to, pass out. Right? I mean, it just does it. You cannot reason with these parts. Take some time and learn how to work with them and get them what they need and what they want. Because when they're happy, they're going to give you everything you want. You become unlimited in your ability to accomplish anything that you want to because your brain is in alignment with you and with your goals. That's powerful because emotions are power. I don't really know what these thoughts are. I mean, I haven't really spent a lot of time meditating or reading about them. Um, I'm still formulating concepts, but you know what? Actually, I've been dabbling in some reading of someone who's talking about these things, and let me see if I can pull out some thoughts here. Oh, they were just talking about that this is your consciousness, this is your attention and awareness center, which, from my work, I'm like, you need two things to heal anything, and that's attention and intervention. Done. Problem solved. And so, when we're using this part of the brain, this is the attention, right? Because a lot of times the focus can be just everywhere, but when you learn how to focus it, you have the first half of the ingredient of- for all healing. And then you can use an intervention with it, and bam, done. Everything starts moving in the brain and magic happens. Fabulous. Um, but um, But I wonder also if this attention and awareness is really when we're empowering. One of the most powerful things we have is focus. This is all coming together right now, ladies and gentlemen. Feel free to add to this, but what one of the most powerful things we have is focus, right? If you whatever you focus on, you get more of, because there's a creative aspect, a creative element to our focus. If you focus on like your homework, you get it done. If you focus on building a business, you get it done. Like the more you can focus, the more you can accomplish anything. The more focus you put into something, the more just the more creative ability you have there. But if you have that focus plus emotion, this is magnifying all of the power, and it will really empower the focus. And one of the things I find that what when you are going into focus on something, especially if you got anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, you're going into focus on something, but there's so many things that will distract you and reroute you. And so the amount of time you can focus on the thing is very minimal, because your inner world would take you and redirect you all the time based on, you're all of a sudden your inner healer says, "Oh, this reminds me of that time that I've really been wanting to heal a lot of times. So we're going to go over there and pull that up." And now you're having a flashback, right? But you're like, "Man, I'm trying to do this." And so there's so many, these emotions can really, and memories, and all the projects your inner healer wants to do, can really sidetrack you, and you can't focus. And a lot of people mistakenly believe they have ADHD. Some people actually do. But the one of the functions of anxiety and depression and traumatic stress is very similar to what's happening with ADHD, with distractions, avoidance, your brain just changing direction on you all the time, so that the real amount of focus you get is very, very minimal. And that means your creative power is minimal. But if you can get your brain what you want, it will give you more ability to focus, more creativity, and more creative power. I feel like I have given you this much of, like, and I want to give you this much of this. Like, I cannot tell you how powerful this is. And let me see if I can think of another way to say this, to like really, like, please love your emotions. Please work with them. Please help your brain with your emotions. Like, if team brain over here, help your brain with your emotions, watch your life unfold. We talked yesterday about how, emotions are a function of your authentic self. They're a function of all of that. And so it's like, it's part of your sensory stuff. It's part of your preferences. I mean, they tell you so much about your life. It's just like touch, right? It's just like you're touching something. It's like, I know if I like this or not. Emotions are the same way. They're going out there touching on things. They're telling you what you like, what you don't like. And your job is to get more of what you like and keep out what you don't like, right? That's where your boundaries come from, is your emotions. If you have no boundaries, it's because you haven't moved any of this emotion. And this emotion has all kinds of things to tell you, hey, I know where one of your boundaries are. Let me tell you. And it can't get through. It's blocked outside of the part of the brain. You can't understand it over here. All you can do is feel the energy and feel the power of it. And you can't use it. And you can't get that information because it's not moving into the right part of the brain. It's stuck over here. And so, but if you're in codependence, it's because of this problem. You can't get this emotion through. And let me tell you, okay, while I'm on this, I'm ranting, people. While I'm on this emotion is what your brain uses, because this is emotion, right? But the emotion is storing information. The emotion is storing power. So it's got these things going on over here. Your brain uses this to update your operating system. If you haven't gotten your emotion through, you haven't upgraded your operating system in I don't know how long. Maybe if you have, this is why people have moments of regression, right? Because they feel all of a sudden they're acting like they're 7, they're 6, they're 15, they're 20, right? Is because they're actually getting in pockets in their brain that haven't been updated yet. And they're actually behaving like they're 20 because That's where the operating system is. It's just like a phone. It's just like a phone. I'm loving this. It's all coming to me. But it's just like a phone that if you don't upgrade it, eventually there are problems. And now there's things you can't use, you know? And so what happens to me is that I get people on the phone and they say, I've had this anxiety all my life, but now I have having panic attacks when I'm driving my car. And I can't do the I can't do that anymore. Operating system didn't upgrade, did get upgraded and updated. And so they're functioning, but now there's things they can't do. You know, on your phone where like you're doing fine, but then they upgrade you. Like, you know, the system's supposed to upgrade 5 times. You're 6 updates behind, and the next thing you know, your mail doesn't open up. You know, and then after that, you know that your Facebook doesn't open up anymore, and then you're losing apps all the time, man. And there's things you used to be able to do with this thing, and it used to be awesome, and now it's not. And that happens to humans all the time. And that's one of the reasons why I tell people, like, I don't know anybody that should not be doing this work. If you have a survival system and you have a prefrontal cortex and a subconscious mind, you should be doing this because you are constantly outgrowing your subconscious program. You're constantly growing out of your beliefs. What you believe about your 5-year-old today is not going to serve you when you have a 15-year-old. You need to upgrade so that you're there. If you don't upgrade and you're treating that child like he's 5, you got problems on your hands, right? And if you right, I mean, I think that's really a powerful thing. We have to update this thing all the time, and otherwise we get stuck in patterns and we start losing function. And then people are calling me and they're crying every day, right? And if you're crying every day and you're just emotional like that, that's actually a sign that you're crying is an intervention that it comes with your operating system that's very healing. And so when you start crying, that means your system is trying to upgrade itself and update the programs. And crying is a very slow way to do that, but if it's the only one you got, I mean, go cry for a long, long time, weeks, you know? So but there's so many faster ways, there's so many better ways. Um, so I just want you to understand this. And if you're somebody who's unemotional and nobody knows, you know, you're missing out on lots of deep, rich communication and connection with people. If you're super emotional and you can't get out of here, you're also missing out on rich and deep communication and connection. Because all of the stuff that's stored in your emotion, all the information isn't available. It's not available to you and it's not available to anybody else. And so we're stuck and we want to relate and we can't relate. And so people, you know, when we have these disorders, we can be so lonely inside because no one can touch us. No one can connect with us like that. And a lot of that's because number one, our system hasn't been updated. Number two, trauma can really break your connectors, right? What generates the ability to connect, or maybe neglect it. You had it neglected, it just never built it, right? So you're going around life and you don't have this stuff built. It's in your emotions. It's in all that, those emotion codes or whatever we're calling them, you know, it's in that. And you got to get that from this side of the brain to this side of the brain. And so, you know, and what we're talking about is a lot of work, right? We're not going to lie, but it's not hard work. It can't be, because if it's too intense, your whole system will shut it down and it won't allow it to happen. Your brain will not allow itself to heal. And that's one of the things why people get stuck like this anyways, because something big happened or a couple things big happened and the brain shut down the healing process. And then it starts to back up, and then you learn how to live without a functioning healing process. And then it starts to collect junk and debris and baggage. And next thing you know, you're walking around life with 16 emotional baggages going on, you know. And so, but the thing is that we can get in those bags and we can pull that stuff through, and your brain will heal and resolve that. It's magic. It's not magical. It's just how brains are, but it feels magical. It looks magical, and it's fast. And I would say, you know, I talk about this stuff, and what I find is it takes to move a whole anxiety, depression, or trauma disorder into remission. It takes about 120 to 300 hours of specific and targeted brain work. Now, that could be really overwhelming for you to just hear those numbers, but if we really just break that down, what we're looking at is if you work at a pace that's good for your brain and the right pace, and I find that people can do 120, 112 hours in about 2 months. if they're working the right pace. If you do this with a therapist, right, you're looking at 2 years, 3 years, 4 years if you're doing weekly sessions and you're not learning how to do this for yourself, if you're having them do it for you. There's so many ways to do this, but you really need to update your whole program, right? When you need to upgrade your phone, I'm avoiding an upgrade. I'm telling you, I have right here. Let me tell you what software would be auto installed. This is like 5 days old, maybe 7. I don't want to do that. It's going to take me time. It's going to take me energy, right? And it's going to take me what, all of 10 minutes? Maybe. Okay, maybe it's going to take me an hour and I don't want to do this, right? So for you, it's going to take you 112 hours. So I understand why you would not want to do this. And this is not going to ruin my life. This is not going to stop me from being able to take drives in my car. This is not going to keep me from having panic attacks. I mean, this is not going to make me have panic attacks. This is not going to make me start screaming at my kids. This is not going to make me feel useless and self-sabotage. It's just not. But the upgrade that you need will create all of that, and it will catch up to you, and it will impact the quality of your life, and it will impact whether or not your emotions start to debilitate you or not. This is where your function comes from. And so it's so, so, so important to do this work and to keep this stuff moving. This is part of like brushing your teeth. It's got to be done. You will always have a survival system. You will always have emotions. Just like you want to always have eyesight. Like that's a thing. You want to have great and healthy emotions, and you want to have a healthy relationship with your emotions. Please don't start talking about your eyes the way that you start talking about your emotions. Not good. I'm not trying to hear that. I don't even want to know what you're doing with that. And I don't want you to start avoiding your eyesight because, right, that would be a problem. You'd go to the doctor right away. Are you kidding me? But your emotions are doing all the things and you're just living like that. Oh, I'll handle it in a little bit. I'll talk about it in a while. Oh, I don't know what you're doing. I do know what you're doing, but I want you to just hear that's not the way to live. You got things to do with your life. You've got people to love. You've got stuff to just take into your heart. You've got like the juice of life to suck up and enjoy and just be joyful and patient and peaceful. That P word right there, man. That's a lot of things people are missing because of how the brain functions. And so, it's just help your brain, help your brain, help your brain. Learn how to help your brain. Move emotion. Move emotion. Find the ways that work for you. Move it. Get some help and master your emotions. Get a wonderful relationship. When you master your emotions, let me tell you what, you don't get to control them. Like there's never a point you actually get to control your emotions. But you can work with them. You can use them for power. You don't get to control your eyesight. Your eyes are open. Your eyes are doing what your eyes do. And that's what you want them to do because they are vision specialists. You're not. Don't tell your eyes what to do. That's dumb. You're not going to do that. Nobody expects to control their hearing. Don't tell your ears what to do. They're auditory like specialists. They do that stuff. And just leave them alone, right? Your emotions are the same way. You're not going to control them. And let me tell you what, you don't want to control them. You want to work with them. You want to receive information from them. Stop trying to do all these things and control your emotions. It's not a thing. Just like if you're a business owner and you have people on your team who are super great at tech, don't control them. You don't micromanage them. That's dumb. Set them free to be awesome and do their thing. Right? Your emotions are the same way. They are there for you. They are very powerful. Learn what they mean, learn how to work with them, and learn how to get them from this part of the brain into this part of the brain. That's it. And let me tell you, talk therapy will not do that for you. It won't. It can do like a smidge, but why drag that out? Um, Talk therapy addresses your thinking center and let me tell you what, your thinking center loves talk therapy, and talk therapy can be very supportive. There's so many valuable things that can come from talk therapy, but when you need to move emotion, that is not what we're doing. We're going to work with this part of the brain and get this part of the brain moving. And then let me tell you what, after this part of the brain gets up in here, then it's like this part of the brain goes nuts. And it's like, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff I just found and I got to work with and I get to do this. And guess what? This is when your brain will want to start learning some things. And this is a perfect time for talk therapy. Perfect. You can learn so much and create so much transformation. But when you've got like emotional baggage, that is not a talk therapy thing, in my opinion, and I stand by that. And so, that's not a time for that. Move that emotion, get that through, and next thing you know, find yourself a talk therapist if you want to. That's the time for it. That's when you're supposed to be doing all the self-help books after you move the emotion. But don't think you're going to read that stuff and you're going to move emotion. That's not what it does. T- Podcasts, books, lessons, seminars, talk therapy. That's for this. This part of the brain has no jurisdiction over this part of the brain or this part of the brain. It can be somewhat influential, but not really. So if you help this part first, everything unlocks for you. Everything unlocks for you. And that's because you're moving emotion into a form you can actually use, and you can grab from it all the nuggets. Boundaries come out, understanding comes out, clarity, decision making, sublime. Okay. So if you're emotional, great. That means that you are an incredibly powerful person and you are learning how to use your power. Wonderful. If you're unemotional, fine. But guess what? When you decide to use your emotions, you become all that more powerful. And now you're connecting. And I could go on and on and on. Okay. But yeah. When I was, I have so much more to share about that, but um, it took me it took me through 2 weeks to get this client in a place where I could download all this information into there, right? So, and there needs to be space in the brain and, all that stuff and time, right? So perhaps I will talk more about that and stuff in the future and break that down into small bites. But I hope you are hearing me. I hope that you have a spark of, oh, okay, emotions. Maybe they're not so bad. Um, the other thing is that part of what needs to happen with the emotions, that you have to build a muscle. Like it's like holding a big hose, and it's like, gosh, you can only hold that thing, like, all this water's coming out, right? You can only hold that for as long as you have muscle for, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I can't hold it anymore, and then it sprays everywhere, and that's okay. But the more you hold this hose, the stronger you're going to get. And the next thing you know, you're going to be able to hold this hose and direct it where you want to go. You're going to build skill with this hose. And this is what happens with your emotions, that when you have the first victory, yeah, it might be this big, but you're building that muscle. And the next thing you know, you've got this, you can spray your emotion wherever you need it. You need it down the healing pathways, go. And so you can become an expert with it. You can have self-mastery with these emotions. You can work with them. You can paint amazing pictures in your life. Paintings, right? The water in the hose has just become like paint. We're spraying it on walls here, and it's looking good. No, it's not. If anyway, but if you have skill, it is. If you're an artist, it is looking beautiful because your emotion is going into your painting. Your emotion is guiding it. Your emotion is moving in there with it. And if you're any place, you want to work with this stuff. So, and this is, you want to teach your kids, you want to model emotional wellness. You want to model high level skills with your emotions. You want your kids to be able to see, you want your kids to be able to hear, like, teach them also how to use their other senses. Just saying, my opinion, but you're listening, so you're getting it. And so that's the deal. So this is important, and I want you to do that. I want you to get it. I want you to love your emotions. I had a client. She came to me. She said she hated her emotions, and it was real. It was real. Um, and and she would just be pissed every time she cried or a tear came out, like, just pissed. And we moved through a lot of emotional wounds, and she didn't have to cry a ton, but she did, because bodies like to cry when it's time to cry. And so but we healed a lot of those emotional wounds, and she lost 140 pounds that year without dieting or exercising, because when we can't move this emotion, that energy has to go somewhere, right? And some people are moving that energy, and it's like it's so big that they're eating to manage it. they're eating for it, and so they're binge eating, right? Some people are like Facebook scrolling nonstop, 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 just because they need to do something with all that mental and emotional energy. Other people are smoking, getting high, wine every night. Wine, it used to be once a week, now it's every night. Those sorts of things, and we're doing this stuff, and if we don't get this emotion through, bad things start happening in our life. It's not like if you can't hear, I mean, people that are deaf do phenomenal. I mean, they're doing great. If you can't see, there's so much you can do, right? If you can't do stuff with your emotions, something's going down. Something. And these are senses we really need to be aware of, we really need to honor, and we really need to learn how to work with. And so I think I have impressed that upon you enough at this point. So what I'm going to do is, number one, I want to say, if it is your time and you are like sick of leaving your power on the table, and you're sick of your emotions ruining your life and incapacitating you and debilitating you in whatever ways they are, and you are ready to do something about that, and you want to see if I can help you with this, I absolutely welcome you to grab a spot on my calendar by going to rachelmcleod.com/call. We will talk and see if I can help you. If I can help you, I will absolutely show you what that would look like. And if we are not the right fit for each other, because that happens, then I will help you with your next steps. And these calls are very honest. If I cannot help you for whatever reason, I still want you to get your win. And most people I can help. So and if that's the case, we'll talk about that. So that's a thing. And I invite you to take advantage of that if you feel the pulling from your emotions, or from your heart, or from your mind. If any of those guys are talking to you and telling you, grab that spot on her calendar, do that. If they're not saying anything like that, we'll do this another time, right? But anyway, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to answer any questions. If you have a question, go ahead and post those in, and I will address them. Okay, 10 minutes is the speed of the human. So negative self-talk. I'm not certain. I think Melita Sanders is dropping thoughts on there, and so, but I'm going to keep reading, because maybe I'll catch the wave and I'll pick up what she's sending. A product of this one thing not happening. Yes, yes. Um, if I could, as somebody, right, I specialize in helping people eliminate symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress in 2 to 6 months instead of 2 to 6 years. I'm serious about that. I've been on that mission for a while and rocking that. Okay. Um, and if I could tell you the secret of how to eliminate problems, emotional problems, all symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, and if I could boil it down, which I love to do that, and I have before, and I'm going to do it again now. If I could boil it down to one thing, it is just simply about moving emotion from this part of the brain over to this part of the brain. Done. Over and over and over again. Okay. In lots of creative ways. But that one thing, the emotion getting stuck over here, that is what is causing all of these problems, relationship problems, marital problems. That's it right here. I could go on and on, but it's just all, most things are a product of that. Can't not getting the emotion through the healing pathways. Yes. Okay. So she's quoting here, you're not going to get what you want until your brain gets what it wants. That is absolutely truth. And that's kind of a truth for most people. Um, we do best in relationships, and our relationship with our emotions are no different than our relationship with the people outside. As a matter of fact, if you are having conflict outside with another human, it's because you have internal conflict. You have the exact same internal conflict inside that is happening outside your world, period. That's like, take that to the bank. So if you're out here and you're having what happens is, if you can start empathizing with the person and understanding them and listening to them, all of a sudden you're pulling in all the information you need to start creating a win-win solution. But what happens is, most of the time they say something, it triggers us, we go into that emotional state, we both sit there and get in front of each other with our emotional states. No one's listening, no one's picking up any information, we're just emotioning with each other and repressing each other's emotions. And then finally we do something like either pull away or fight or ignore each other or do all sorts of passive aggressive stuff, and then the problem never changes. And that's what's going on with our emotions, is that we're emotioning with our emotions instead of empathizing, understanding, listening, gathering, right? And when we're gathering, we're doing this, we're pulling it through. When to be able to listen to another human being, you have to be in a regulated state, right? And that means your survival system is not firing and taking you off into survival mode. It means that you're actually using this part of the brain to do the work. And for whatever reason, you've been able to get your survival system to chill out so you can have this conversation with this other emotional person who's in a limbic state, right? And so that's really what we really want to do with our emotions as well. We want to work with our survival system so that our survival system is not like, we're not doing this, fight everybody, we're just going to emotion with emotion. And so if we can get the survival system to move out of the way, the emotions can come in and they can have a communication with you, and they can be converted, and they can become usable, and they can get into the right part of the brain, and magic starts happening, and all of a sudden you're resolving your conflicts, your internal conflict. And that's really important, because what internal conflict results in is an inner critic, self-doubt, lack of confidence, shame, hiding, withdrawal, isolation. That's inner conflict. Brains don't do well. They don't function well with inner conflict. And so we have to resolve that. And we resolve inner conflict the same way we resolve conflict with the other people, right? With people outside of us. And so, but we have to use our brain to be able to do that. And so, anyways, um, so yes, it sure does what it does. Absolutely. Um, okay, Bethany says that's so true. I wish I knew what she was talking about, but yes, I'm glad you're resonating with it. Um, uh, Melita says there's a book that calls Thoughts the Chatterbox. I'm not sure I relate to their approach to understanding it. Yeah, I don't. I think that many people experience their thoughts as very frustrating and annoying, right? But guess what? Many people think of their children as frustrating and annoying, right? They're not super the best parents in the whole world. Shocker. But a lot of times we have that belief and that feeling about our kids because we've got so much emotion ourselves, and it's actually we're being annoyed. Our emotions are annoying us, and we're projecting that out on the kids. Right, that's the process there. And so the emotions can become really annoying and overwhelming, but it's the emotions that are overwhelming. It's not the people, right? The thoughts can become overwhelming because there's so many of them. And if we're making up stories of how things function, Rachel's world, the thoughts are looking for some power. Like, can I have something? Can I connect with an emotion? No, I can't, because I can't get the emotion through over here. So it just keeps chattering and talking and telling all sorts of stories and lies and illusions and whatever it's doing. And I think because that can really frustrate people, and then they start treating themselves with frustration, and now we're self-harming, and we're separating from ourselves, and where there's part of ourselves we don't even want to see anymore. Like, God, there she is again. Or really, you're going to say that? Oh, you're going to eat that again? Right? And so this is happening inside, and we're separating from ourselves. We're leaving that state of wholeness. And that's what we do with our children when we project our emotions out on them. We're leaving that state of connection. And so, and that happens to the best of us. But when we know what we're doing, we can really take responsibility, and we can move our own emotions so that we don't have to. We're going to move it, and what we do when we can't move it is we project it out, and now it's somebody else's problem, and it's really that internal projection. So it's so powerful when you can do this work, because nobody has to be buried under or hidden by your emotions. You can start to see accurately, because you're emotioning accurately, and you're interpreting your emotions accurately, instead of in a way that's harmful to you and others. So um part of it is that you withhold yourself from having a reoccurring experience. The famous "I don't want to go there again." Yes. If you say that, anytime you say, "I don't want to be like my mother," you're going to be like your mother, period. Your brain is going back there. And when you say, "I don't want," and you say it with any kind of emotion, you're going back. You're going to do that. That thing that you don't want is happening. One of the fastest ways to deal with that and not bring that into your life and not become like your mother is to move the emotion of fear of being like her. period. Because when you're not afraid of that anymore, your subconscious mind is creating based on emotion. And if there's emotion in there, it's like, ooh, paying attention, right? And if you say, I don't want to be like my mother, it's like, ooh, be like your mother. There's so much emotion in that. And so it's going to go in there and play with that. And it's going to create with it because it wants to move that emotion up too. It wants to feel that emotion. And so when you take this, I don't want to be like my mother thing, and we know moms, some anyway, moms, um, we love them and we are them. So but when you say, I don't want to be like my mother, one of the best things to do is take that, because it's over here in emotion land, get it up into here. Not just by talking about it. That doesn't move emotion up there. That moves your cognition. That moves your thoughts. Talking about things moves your thought. It does not move your emotions. Right? So, but if you can get this, I do not want to be like my mom. Oh my God, that would be the worst thing ever. If you can get that, like if you think about a box, if you can get that through your healing pathways into here, this part of the brain, it strips the emotions. Like, what are we going to do with this? It converts it, and it will release whatever it doesn't want and whatever doesn't match. And then next thing you know, it just has the good stuff, and then it's doing all kinds of things. And then guess what? Now all of a sudden, you're not afraid of being like your mom. And now when you notice that you're like her, you can think about it and make some choices, because now you're in this part of the brain. You have choices there. If you're behaving like your mom and you're not there, and this emotion's over here, now you're like, oh my God, I'm being like my mother. Ah, you're reacting, you're afraid, and you're over here, and it's not moving through. And so it just keeps circling, and you're building momentum of being like your mother. There's somebody said this, and I think this is a really good way of saying it, and I wish I could translate it into all the religions, but I'm just going to say it like this, and so I want you to translate it into your religion. But it says the universe, the energy, vibration, does not recognize the word not. And so if you say, I do not want to be like my mother, you're basically saying to the universe, I want to be like my mother. Right. And I like this because it talks about the pattern of self-fulfilling prophecies, which is a function of your subconscious mind. So you want to, in working with your subconscious mind, the less emotion you give to something, the less your subconscious mind doesn't even care, doesn't even want. It's like that doesn't have enough bling on it. I like bling. And so it's like, and when we're using the interventions, we're paying attention to something in interventioning, and instead of it being a blingy thing with all this emotion, all of a sudden it just becomes this. And your survival system doesn't care about this. It won't react to it. And because it's paying attention to bling too. And it's like, oh, that's dangerous. And your subconscious mind is like, ooh, look at that pretty thing that's happening. And so all of a sudden when it looks like this, it's like nobody wants it, and they allow it to go into your thinking center. And so once that happens, magic starts happening. And so I don't know where I was going with that. I was just having fun running my mouth with that. So let me see if I can retrace my. Okay, I think we were just talking about the chatterbacks. Yeah, I don't think it's good to disrespect any parts of yourself. I think that's a bad habit that we've learned up and we think is okay, but your subconscious is listening to every single thing you say. And so and its whole job is to show you more of what you believe. And so if you believe your mind is a chatterbox and you're like, oh my gosh, it's chatterbox, your brain is like, oh, chatterbox, because it's like a robot, that part of the brain. It's like, oh, let me show you how your brain's a chatterbox. And so now it's showing you all the ways it's a chatterbox. If you say, my kid's so annoying, then it says, oh, your kid's annoying. Okay. And your brain filters in what you believe, and it filters out what's not important to you. And so you have access of what you get to participate in the world just by your belief system. Right. And so that's one of the reasons why we want to update these things and pull these things through the healing pathways and update, because these old beliefs they're going to keep your brain only showing you these things. This is called the reticular activating system, and there's some Facebook videos that describe this function. And your brain literally will make things disappear right in front of your eyes. And there's lots of ways of a subconscious program and function, and so this is why. Anyway, we're getting all nerdy. Um, let's keep moving here. Um, uh, Part of it is that you withhold yourself from having, yes. So the reoccurring theme, brains reoccur whether you like it or not. If you don't want to have something reoccur, you're going to have it reoccur because you're not helping it through the process. If your brain is reoccurring, that is an indication that it's stuck on something. The best thing to do is go help it with what it's stuck with, period. And then it will stop reoccurring just like that. Seriously, that's how it happens. Um, okay, yeah. Um, is a shutdown likely to happen once you start doing the work? System shutdowns, right, occur specifically, right? If you're running a computer code, if your code is off, it's gonna shut down there. Period. Until that code is resolved. And when you start doing the work, what happens is your system begins upgrading all the time. But if there's a shutdown code in there and you're not ready to get to it, you will shut down again in that moment. You will keep shutting down until that code, that program is overhauled. And then once you get that thing overhauled and resolved, now you will go to that place again and you will function optimally because upgrades happen so that it's optimal performance. And that's really wonderful because these glitches that can be things like panic attacks, um, racing thoughts, somatic symptoms like you're feeling like you've got a pit in your stomach, flashbacks, codependence, no boundaries. Those things happen because of your codes. And so once you do this work and you're moving this emotion, your brain starts upgrading all of that. And so what's really cool is you start noticing pockets of area where you're functioning better, and that's just really exciting. And you're like, oh my gosh, I got to keep doing this. And then you keep doing it and you keep going after every area of your life, right? And so pretty soon the whole thing is just bling. And then you say to yourself, this is awesome. And then the human spirit says, what can we do with this? And now it wants to go, right? And wants to explore and expand. And um, and then brains don't like that, and so your brain freaks out, but now you know how to help your survival system, so you get to keep moving through brain freakouts. And you can keep rewriting codes for the next levels of your life. Now you're all of a sudden you're emotionally well and you want to start your business. Well, you got to write codes for your business, and so you can work with your brain to write new codes to help you function well in your business. Or now you want to have your first baby, you got to have codes for babies. Your brain has to. And so that's, so you can help your brain with that. There's nothing you can't help your brain do once you learn how to talk to it, right? It's kind of like, this work is kind of like marriage counseling, like two people getting together and talking and like communicating and resolving conflict, except for you're doing it with yourself in your own brain. I love that. And then that's really what happens. So yes, shutdowns are likely to happen anytime shutdowns are in your code. So that's a thing. But when you know where those are, you can avoid them until you're ready to get in there and work that through. So there's lots of ways to avoid shutdowns, and that's part of, when you're working with a professional, that's some of the stuff they should be helping you do. That's their job, is to look out for that stuff, highlight it, and make sure you don't get in there. You want to stay out of those codes. And you can really systematize this in such a way that you can still get a lot of work done, even though there are places where you have system shutdowns. And so brains will do what you tell them to do, and if you know how to communicate with your brain, all the doors open. So um, so yes, so system like shutdowns can happen anytime you run into that program. Um, Alex says, I'm done with the trauma baggage life. Yes, awesome. I want to hear you. And I'm going to hear you and function. Yes, 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 yes. That's exactly what we're doing. That trauma baggage life sucks, man. It's so limiting. And I'm speaking from experience. I've been there, done that. I do not want that t-shirt. No, thank you. You get the gems from it, the muscle. If when you're in trauma baggage life, you have no idea how many skills and muscles and powers, superpowers you are actually building. And they are there. And when you move this stuff through the healing pathways, they activate and they're yours. They're right outside of the healing pathways. Just got to get them through. And all this beautiful stuff happens. Okay. Yeah. So, yes, absolutely. People to love. Don't tell your eyes what to do. Yeah, it's real. Um, yeah, absolutely. Good. Okay. Brianna says makes sense. Good. Um, yes. Okay, emotions. Good. Um, yeah. Um, you know, moving emotions. So Brianna says, even though they are the things that are controlling, yes. Emotions are a very powerful force that can be very controlling. I would say it's more your brain that's controlling because your parts of the brain navigating your like your control center, right? But the when under the power of emotion that can really take you in ways that you don't want to go. That's really controlling, and those parts of the brain can really control you. I would say emotions are a little bit more on the neutral end, I would think, how I've related with them, and that they will do what they're allowed to do. And that's why you really want to be motivated to get them into the right part of the brain, because that's the part of the brain that is responsible for you thriving. That's where you want all your motion to go, because you want to go towards thriving. Like, how do we make Rachel thrive? That's where, like, right up here, that's team thrive right here. This is team survive. And this is team function in such a way that you don't even know you're functioning. Okay. And this one writes the codes for all of these. But if this one can't get the information, no codes get written, nothing gets updated. And so this is the one you want to feed her or him all the things it needs to be able to rewrite and to do everything, because it will make codes that you don't even have to think about, like breathing. But now it's like functioning well, and you don't even have to think about it. All of a sudden you're just watching um, emotional wellness fly out of your mouth, or you're watching a brilliant solution fly out of your mouth. Like, oh, I had a client who usually she's very quiet, and she heard her emotions. We had a huge celebration today. She heard her emotions and she did the normal behavior, and then her emotions said, "Oh no, you didn't." And before she would notice that and go into a panic attack, but this time she noticed it and she was like, "Oh." And so she took action, the action they wanted her to take. And it went really wonderfully on for both sides of the communication that she did. She delivered because, and then she was like, I heard them. And I finally listened to them. Like, she's been running from these for a really, really long time. And all of a sudden she did them and they helped her, and it was really good. And it was like, high five team. And she was just having a huge high five team. We all celebrated because it was entirely different behavior than what she had been doing. And what she was doing was keeping her small, and was keeping her from the results she wanted in her life. And so, but her team, she had couldn't connect with her team. And so all of a sudden she finally was in a space where she could connect with them and value them, and they hooked her up. And that's what emotions do. And that's, anyway, we want that teamwork. That's what we want. So even though there are things that are controlling, right? So emotions are this big energy, right? There's this huge big energy, but that's why they're awesome. You want them to be that way. That's exactly how you want them to be. It's like finding this perfect romantic partner of your dreams, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't like how you're doing that. I don't like how you're doing that. I don't like how you're doing that. Now you got them really small, and they can't be awesome anymore. And now you're just like, I don't even like you. You're so right. But you did that to them. Like, we want them to be all of them, right? We want our emotions to be all of them. The thing is, it's time for us to level up. It's not time for the emotions to get smaller. It's not time for this wonderful dream, person to get smaller. We're not going to like that version of them. It's time for us to step in, and your brain will write codes for you to step up into your life and into your full potential anywhere. Period. And that's really when you learn how to work with your brain, that's what you're activating. You're activating that. That's good. That's the good stuff. Um, and so, yes, even though they are controlling, you want to move them. That's your only job with emotions, is move them, listen to them, move them, listen to them. Sometimes you can't even listen to them while you're moving them. Sometimes you kind of got to stand. Anyway, there's lots of things that, with emotions, you learn how to work with them, you learn how to move them. And really, once you start this work, you can hear your body telling you what to do with it, because your body is emoting too. Your body is moving with emotion as well. So anyway, it's beautiful. Everything kind of comes together, and you just get this alignment and this teamwork and flow, and you really become so unlimited and so powerful. um, but if we don't want, that's supposed to help block that, right? No, Don't wanting is never going to help anything. It's going to actually get you more of it. And you're wrestling with the wrong thing. It's like it's us trying to control an outcome, and you can't control an outcome. You can only control who you are. And so, and how you respond emotionally. And that is what impacts outcomes. And so it's putting that, your power in the wrong place, by not wanting something. I don't want my kids to grow up and be addicted to video games. I don't want my spouse to look at other women. I don't want, all the things we don't want. We have lists of them, really. But where is that statement coming from? It's coming from an emotion. It's coming from a thought plus an emotion. Boom, go. So, but you don't need to move thoughts through the healing pathways. They just run. You need to move emotion through the healing pathways. And so once you can move the emotion through, your brain will convert that, and then it will hook it back up with whatever thoughts it needs to hook it up with. I don't know what it's doing in there. It's just doing awesome things, and that are accurate and helpful to you specifically. Um, so yeah, that's what we need to do, is just move the emotion, and that's it. A lot of times when we have employees that are really amazing, all we need to do is just move them into place, right? Just put them on the projects they need to be put on. Your expertise needs to be here. We need all the emotional expertise right here. Emotions. Let's gather up, meeting up here in the prefrontal cortex. Let's do that. And that's really when things start to happen. Um, so yeah. So if you hear yourself say, I don't want this, you need to start moving your emotion, because your emotion is going to help you create what you're focused on. And because the emotion helps you focus on things, you're going to create with it. And so next thing you know, if you don't want your kids to be addicted to video games, all you do is notice now you're focusing on their video games, right? And now you're going to get more video games because you get more of what you focus on. And I know that that's crazy town talk, but that's how brains function. Your brain is creative in nature. That's what it's doing all the time. If it's dysfunctioning, it's creating dysfunction. If it's creating business, it is creating business. If it is whatever it is doing, it is creative in nature. And so it's creating the good or the bad. If you want to have your life awesome, you get that emotion through your healing pathways into that part of the brain, period. You do not want to be giving power to your survival center, because now you're in hypervigilance mode, and you're in survival mode all day long in powerhouse, and you're wondering why you're stuck in your brain, because that's where all the power is. We got to move that power to the right part of the brain so we can really empower our thriving center, our center where all of the magic is happening. Um, yes. So when you hear yourself say don't want, that's good information. You're like, oh, there's some emotion in there. I wonder what's happening. Right. And then you can bring that into your awareness. And that awareness is half of the battle. And so you're moving. You need the other half likely, um, but you're going to learn those. You're going to figure out how to learn those, and you're going to find somebody that will help you learn that. Alex says, I agree that emotions dance with your code writer. Yeah, I think that's a really nice way to say that. Yeah. Hmm. Sure, I like it. It's a dance, your dance instructor. That's the deal with emotions, is that it is like a dance, and it's really, really beautiful when it's working well, and it's going to dance one way or the other. It's going to dance in your survival system, or it's going to dance in your prefrontal cortex. Emotions do what they do. Your only option, as far as I see, is to get it in the right part of the brain so that it's dancing the dance you like it to dance. Really. Perfect. Exactly. So that's what's happening. And I hope that this helps you want to be emotional. And it helps you empower yourself with all this emotion, and helps you have a sense of, okay, when people come to be and they're like driven by fear, right? That's the heart of an anxiety disorder and depression disorder. And sometimes even I, I said depression disorder. So I'm going to say that again. So fear is the heart of an anxiety disorder and trauma disorder, and can sometimes also be the heart of a depression disorder. Um, I'm gonna say when I hear that, when I hear people are terrified or fearful, and that's what's controlling their life, right? It's because it's controlling it in the survival center. It's making them do all sorts of survival mode stuff. Um, to me, that's wonderful because what I'm hearing is they're about to have when the brain converts fear into courage and hope. And so if I hear somebody's really fearful, I'm like, great. Let's make that stuff happen because what's about to happen is this person is going to be like incredibly courageous. They're going to be incredibly hopeful. And that fuels all the other emotions, courage. It flows into all the other ones. And so if you got a lot of fear going on, awesome things are going to happen when you can get them from your survival center up. So if you've got an anxiety disorder, trauma disorder, if that's the root of your depression, great. Let's rock that. Let's get that fear through so that you turn into the person that is courageous and that can you're like a fear converter. Really, that's what brains do. So um, it's really, really phenomenal. And so I just want you to hear that there's nothing wrong with you if you're emotional. There's something wrong with how you're functioning. You need to get with that, right? You need to build skills, but you're really holding on to an incredibly powerful if you're an emotional woman, you are a very powerful woman. If you are a very emotional man, you are a very powerful man. And absolutely, a lot of men are socialized to cut off the emotions and not respect the emotions at all. And so what happens is they get disenfranchised from half of their power center, and then we're mad at all these men because they don't listen and they don't this right. We all the stories, but their dysfunction a lot of times is because they cannot convert emotion into usable form, and they have lots of emotions. People tell me, oh, my husband just doesn't feel things very deeply. Lies. Your husband has a really great suppression system, period. you know and that's socialized into men. And women, we're socialized to be emotional. Neither of us are helped with our emotions. Neither of us are taught this is how you move it from this part of the brain to that part of the brain. Simple process, let's go. We're not taught that. We're taught stop being a this, stop being a that, stop that. You're crying for reals? Big girls don't cry. And stop crying. Stop crying like a girl. Stop crying like a girl. Men cry. Like that's a man thing. Anyway, but what we're really saying is don't heal. Stop that healing crap. If you don't stop that healing crap, I'll give you something to heal about. Yeah, you will. Anyway, um, so okay, Brianna says, I've heard that. I still don't understand how emotional means powerful. Okay, emotion is power. Just that's it. End of story, Brianna. Um, emotion is like it's like energy in motion. It's like electricity. Um, you this lamp right here, my little lamp right here, took the whole little thing off because I got this like high tech setup over here. Um, that has to, if I want anything coming through that, if I want light, I have to get it a power source. And so if you want anything in your life, if you want to create anything, you've got to get it a power source. And that is emotion. That is why emotions are power. That's why if you have a lot of emotions, you have a lot of available power available to you in your life. So we just need to get that into the right part of the brain and get you some muscles, right? So you can hold all that power and that you can move with it, right? I mean, that's what you got to do with emotion. You can't control it. You got to move with it. And that takes some practice because they're your emotions and nobody can practice that for you but you, because your emotions will move differently than anybody else's. And you can learn about the dance steps. You can try some other people's dance steps out, but ultimately your brain and your emotions do your dance, and we want that dance thriving. Like we want you like listening to thriving music, doing thriving dances. And to get your ability to thrive, it's in there. We need to hook it up to a power source so that it empowers thriving. Like did a whole hour video, and right there, that was it. I can make 1 minute movie, and that was the whole message. Yes, that's the deal. Like if you want to thrive and be emotionally well, you need a power source. That's emotions. If you want to be financially successful, you learn about financial success, and then you plug it in to a power source and you empower financial success. You want to be an amazing parent, you figure out, watch people who are amazing parents, learn books, da da da, plug it up to a power source, boom. That's what's happening. So if you're not plugging up to a power source, I mean, there's emotion coming through, right? But it's probably not enough. I don't know what happens there. All I just know is that there's dysfunction in the process, and there's much emotion that's not getting through. That's what I'm focused on. That's what I pay attention to. And so I have never thought about how much is actually getting through, even with people with anxiety, depression, and trauma disorders. But I would imagine some is getting through. Um, but we need all of that, right? I mean, if this wasn't fully powered, it would just be a little bit like just a little bit of light. And that's what I feel like most people are functioning with. They're functioning with just a little bit of light. And when they have all of this emotion that could be making that light bulb bright, that thriving could be brilliant, could be just like light up the whole world. And that's what we could be doing here. And so this emotion piece is so powerful. It's so, I mean, if you're suppressing your emotion, you are missing out on your power. That's it. And if you're suppressing your emotion, you're leaving it in the survival center. And that's where you will go into survival mode. That's where people stay in fight, flight, freeze, or faint mode all day long, years, decades. That's hard on your body, but you're in there because the emotion, the power source is in your survival center. We don't want that there. We want it to come through, and we want it into the thriving center. So that was awesome. Good job, Melita and Brianna. Those were great questions. Josh, thank you. We made some magic together. Awesome. Yes, Brianna is a powerhouse. That's right. That's right. So if you have been told, if you've been labeled emotional, if you've been labeled unemotional, the truth of the matter is you are a powerhouse. You are a power generator. I'm foaming at the mouth again. I said I was going to do better. Okay. That's one of my pet peeves. I'm a mouth person. So I watch people's mouths. Please don't foam at the mouth when we're talking. Like, I'm totally distracted, and here I am foaming at the mouth. Anyway. Okay. All right. Well, I was going to say something, but Josh has said, will you address repetitive thoughts that trigger fight, flight? Oh, you're welcome, Brianna. Will you address repetitive thoughts that trigger fight, flight mode? Repetitive thoughts. Okay, thoughts. I look at thoughts like this, right? So you got this bubble, right? It's like an energy field. There's a thought. In the energy field, there's a disturbance, right? So everything is kind of cool except for this one, and it's like zzz, I don't know what it's doing in there, but it's just disturbance. And every time your inner healer touches this, it activates the disturbance. So this disturbance it's usually the same thing every time. Like you just start crying. Like you think about your dog that passed away in the 3rd grade. Every time you think that thought, you start crying, right? So that disturbance is activated. That thought continually carries that one disturbance. Okay. And so there's thoughts that have nice emotions. Every time you think about it, you laugh, right? And there's other ones, every time you think about it, you feel terrified. That's the disturbance is terrified. Or maybe, anyway, we'll work with this model here. So this thought, because it has a disturbance, this is what your survival center is looking at. Your survival center is looking for these disturbances, and it can sense them because it does electricity and energy, right? It speaks the language of emotion. It's where the emotions are generated and where they start and all that stuff. So it's in this language. So it sees the disturbance, and it doesn't care what the disturbance is. If it's a disturbance, it's dangerous, right? So it's not interpreting this in a logical sense. It's just like, is it dangerous? Is it not? This thought has a disturbance. So what it does whenever this one, your inner healer wants to get that thought through because it needs it, but it can't because the disturbance is there. So it goes and grabs the thought, but the survival center is like, nope, that one can't come through because it's got that disturbance in it. Right. And so it stays over here and it can't go through. And so because it can't go through, whenever it's pulled up, the disturbance is activated every time. And so, and your inner healer will never stop trying to grab that through. It just never will. And then there's some events that happen that are tons of thoughts in a little package, right? In an event package. And so when there's tons of thoughts in an event package, there's lots of disturbances in there. And your survival center is like, that sure as hell ain't getting through here. And so, but your inner healer knows that like all the energy is in there, all the food is in there, all the nutrients and the vitamins, like it, and also it goes to pain. Its job is to fix things. And if this is causing emotional bleeding, it wants in there and it wants to do its healing work. But because it's got the disturbances in there, the survival center won't let it in to do the work that it can be doing. And so, and that's really what happens over and over and over again. And those are repetitive thoughts, right? So when that repetitive thought happens, that is a sign your inner healer is trying to grab it and your survival center isn't. And so they're not, because of how the codes are written, this one's not going to budge. You can't reason with it. You can't talk to it. There's lots of things you can do with it. You can use an intervention with it that speaks its language, and you can get it to let. Well, actually, one of the things that you do is you rebalance the energy field there. I don't know if we were actually doing this. This is the story I tell myself. So, and it works. So I like it. Um, so you balance the energy field in here, and maybe you do. I mean, I'd love to do this under equipment, like, but so you balance the energy. You use these interventions to balance the energy field, and so that it's the thought is there, but the disturbance is cleared out. This is all the same stuff. The disturbance is cleared out, so that when it comes through the healing pathways, it's not recognized by the survival system, and it's allowed to move through the pathways, and it goes up. That's it. And then once it's in here, your survival center is like, ah, I mean, your inner healer is just like all thrilled and like, oh, I've been looking for this, and it will do all sorts of amazing work with that one thing. If it was an event, even the most ugly events that ever could happen, so emotional, painful. Once it gets in this part of the brain, that one is eliminating pain. It doesn't need it. Right. And it converts pain into something else. I don't even know. And so it's just doing all this stuff. And so it's taking it apart and it's using all this information to rewrite the codes and upgrade the system. And that everything that happened in the event is needed in here to upgrade your system and update it. And so it's so important to be able to get these events or these thoughts or these emotions through the healing pathways, because that's where the magic happens. But so when I work with people, the only thing I teach people to do is to work with the survival center that's blocking the healing from happening. That's it. Because if we can get the survival center to let the work happen, goes, we're good. We're good. And so that's really my entire specialty, right? I don't do marriage counseling. My client told me today, what do I do about this? I don't know. I don't know what you do about that. What I do know is that we need to break this thing down. And there's emotion here. Can you see that? Yes. Okay. There's emotion over here. There's emotion over here. We need to pull these things through. And she was like, oh, okay, got it. I sent her off. She did that work, came back right on like 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, whatever. She had done that. And then the thoughts were moving. And so we were looked at the thoughts and see what she got. And we found more emotion there. And so we pulled those through. And then I don't know where we were at. I should, my mouth is running faster than my brain. Oh, and now like, and then she had a bunch of breakthroughs. She just had a bunch of insights, and there was still more emotion to move. And because I train people to move the emotion and understand the emotion while getting results, so that we're doing both of that together. And so I don't find that takes extra time, but anyway, it was a great session. It's phenomenal. I can't wait to see her next. That's the thing. Is like the brain upgrades so quickly that that 3 days is a long time. And because we're doing all this work, and we're only doing this one thing, we're helping the brain heal itself. There's a whole different program the next time I see them. And so, and then we want to look at the program. Where are we at now at the program? What's next? And then we're going through and moving things and resolving things. So, and we're targeting for more moving more emotion through and like getting more upgrades, updates. Oops. So, um, so that I don't know why I think perhaps I've been on here a really long time because I don't know why I went on that thing. Okay, I think we were talking about fight, flight, freeze, fight or flight mode. Okay, so if you have a thought that has a disturbance, that every time it's active, every time your inner healer goes and touches it, or it's trying to your brain is trying to make associations because our brain is constantly, it's like constantly making associations everywhere, right? So if it's wired to make this happens, we make this association, this thought that hasn't come through the healing pathways yet is activated. And then that disturbance in there is activated as well every single time. And you'll go into that mode, whether it's a panic attack, whether it's a panic disturbance or a fear disturbance, or you get hysterical, right? With phobias, sometimes hysteria is the thing. That it's like the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And so that's why we really want to hunt that disturbance down and figure out where the thoughts are, where the origin is, and pull it through. Because once it pulls through, it rewrites a whole code. And so, and then, and the survival center no longer is coded to react to that anymore. And it won't, because it's already processed. Once it gets processed, it's never in that same form, period. So that's why it's really, I think this is so fun, because it's like, if there's flashbacks, you just get them through the healing pathways and they just stop. End of story. So you're like, it's like putting together this whole puzzle, you know? Or, if somebody's having, I had a client who came to me because she was just crying everywhere all day long. And it was interfering with things. And so it's just like, where's the crying coming from? Oh, there it is. Okay, let's pull it through. Done. Not crying anymore. Okay. Now we're on the next thing. I just love it. I just love it. Brains are just so cool. And all these, this anxiety, depression, trauma disorder stuff is nothing that ever has to stay around. Brains heal. These are wonderful prognoses. Like the outcome of these is like even more growth. Like it's just not something anybody has to stay living with. And brains heal this. And these things, these disorders are actually evidence that the brain is trying to heal it, because it keeps activating it over and over and over again. That means your inner healer is like, I need to find that. I need to find that. Where is that? Where is that? Let me get that. Can I get it this time? No, I can't get it this time. No, can I get it this time? Okay, now that process in your body is hell on earth. You know that. So that's not like, I'm not taking that away. Therapeutically, that's awesome. Let's grab that, pull it through, and make that stop, because you're going to feel amazing. And then not only do we grab that, pull it through and make it stop, but now your brain upgrades and you feel even more awesome, because now you're smarter, wiser, more experienced, and more skillful, because your brain will write better codes for you. So that's it. That's what I got. This was awesome. I am going to jump off, especially because as this gets even longer, like people are going to be like, oh my God, an hour and a half. So this was fun. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for asking such great questions. And we made some magic together. And so I really appreciate you, because I really have more words for things now. And I get to tell more stories. And you got to walk away with more information. And I really want you to value your emotions, respect them, and learn how to work with them. Learn how to dance with that, with all those emotions. Learn how to do this and master it. Be a master. Yeah, yeah. I could keep going on, ladies and gentlemen, but it's time to go. Take care. Good night.